This is WRMI Radio Miami International, Okeechobee, Florida, USA. Contact us at info@wrmi.net. Visit us on the web at www.wrmi.net.
Yeah, I'm going back home to my hometown, Okeechobee on my mind.
We're here at WRMI, Okeechobee, Florida. And one of the things that I just can't wrap my head around is how many times I've talked to people about shortwave and they still don't know what it is. A Miami TV producer the other day told me AM or FM. So it's kind of confusing for newcomers, even though this was a big thing in the 20th century. And with the change in technology, who knows if it might have a very big comeback. But anyways, with predictions aside, I want to talk about the real way that shortwave functions. So one of the things that I first noticed when I got here was these little watchtowers. They look like, I don't know, huts, tree houses. So I immediately asked our local engineer, Danny, right? Don or Donny? D-O-N. Okay. Donny, yeah, I thought I heard Donny. All right. So we're going to ask Donny the real hard science questions. And first of all, he's going to tell us what these little towers are.
These are antenna switches because we have multiple antennas out here, so we can put one transmitter on an antenna going to the north and one to the south. And if there are three different ones, you don't do it at the same time, but it depends on time of day and the direction that you want to cover.
One of the things that I also noticed that a few little towers are down. I'm wondering what the price would be for doing repairs on one or two towers that might have gone down through a storm, hurricane.
Each one run around $30,000. You would have to start basically by taking the ones that exist right now down and starting back over. It's not an easy job. You don't just go out there and patch it up and go, yay. It just doesn't work that way.
And how many actual poles, not the antennas, actual freestanding poles are there?
The total number of towers, around 40, but the transmission lines that go out, as I understand it, running around about 800. It's quite a few just to get the transmission lines. So it took us a long time to do all this. This is not overnight facility. It probably a good 25, 30 years for its completion.
And how long have you been working here?
I've been here, it's going to be 39 next year, 39 years.
And of all the years that you spent in this this facility, that I might add, is incredibly silent and peaceful, coming from the craziness that is Miami. Out of all the years that you've been here, what's something that's been really extraordinary in the whole field work of working with shortwave? Something that sticks out?
Actually, getting on these towers and looking around, it's very pretty. It's a lovely view, and you get a chance to see actually wildlife. And we've actually, just for entertainment, one time a fighter jet came over and lined up on us. And I know he was laughing because he was going, hey, I got him on a tower, now he can't get away. We know that, and actually to the north of us is an Air Force training location. So we have had the opportunity to see really nice aircraft floating back and forth and around. It's a very interesting, along with alligators.
Do you get many of those visiting?
Yeah, we do actually. I have warned people at nighttime, when you step out the door, look up and down the sidewalk. I'm not kidding. Alligators do walk up and down at nighttime, especially during mating season. It's not a joke, and they're big. They're anywhere from 10 to 12 foot.
Do those alligators that just come out of the canals to visit a property, do they pose a threat to the livestock? Because I saw a bunch of cows.
No, but I did see something cute one time. There's two different types of what people call an alligator. Of course, we know there's crocodiles. But there's a regular alligator, and then there's one called a caiman. And a little caiman came into the pond over here, which is called the borrow pit, where it was used for dirt to put the building on. And the gator had been there first, and he was fighting for domain. And when he saw the little caiman, they went into combat royal until the caiman left. So you might just see anything out here. You never know.
So it's a little bit of a slice of National Geographic out here. So I'm wondering, is it dangerous to walk into the field under all those towers?
It's not dangerous, but you do need to mind that if there's anything, when you're doing construction, you have poles or anything of that nature on the vehicles, you do need to be very careful. This is very, very high. Yeah, the lines are called balanced line feeders, and they are hot, very hot.
How much electricity does it take? Could you give me like an estimate? Something that the people would understand, not getting too technical. Like, what kind of power are we talking about here? Because it seems like you would need a lot of juice to run this kind of facility.
I know this sounds a little staggering, but initially in years past we ran $140,000 a month, and we're running anywhere contingent upon what target areas. We're still somewhere around 50,000, depends on how much, and the contracts do change, but you can run anywhere from 20 to 50 to higher.
And a little technical thing that I don't seem to understand is you have regions. So as I understood, there are sections. We have like the world map all over around us. Why is that? Why do you need to have different sections to, say, Japan, South America, the Caribbean? Why is that?
That's a good question. Actually, this facility was in Situate, Massachusetts, and they were actually leasing people's yards for the guy wires. It was a government facility at that time. Well, as it grew, the requirements for different areas like Europe, South America, Mexico, virtually 360 degrees is what they wanted to cover. So you can't just target an area using one antenna. And when you're not like an AM or FM, you're covering a city. We're covering a world.
There you go.
So you have to target using these antennas, and there are different antennas for different requirements out here. Our big coverage requirement is Europe, South America. Probably those are the two that use an antenna called a rhombic or rhomboid, and those are high power antennas used for coverage. We cover Europe. We just did today on a new contract, and South America has been that way for a long time on the 9955 frequency for South America, for the Spanish primarily.
These satellites behind us, if I understood correctly, not an expert, I understood that they were retransmitting programs from Japan, was it? How does that work? I mean, can you literally just get some programming in here and then just just send it across the world already?
I believe if you've watched television, you've heard of NHK Japan. There is a satellite that we are picking off an audio feed from, and we simply take it from a satellite, bring it in, and rebroadcast it. And that particular one's going to Mexico in the evening times, or what's known as Yucatan Peninsula. There is a specific antenna to cover that area. Now, what the contract, why they want it, I couldn't tell you. I don't cover that. Right. I just try to get the transmitters to get it there so that it can be heard.
And we're out here on the field, taking in nature, the poles, the sky, the cows. But I want to get down to the software level. Do you need some type of special computer? Because I noticed that while we were in the studio that we're going to show later, there was like a mixture of all the decades, different types of technology. I mean, you yourself said that you've seen it all, that you've seen the progression, the evolution of technology itself. Do you see that it has it gotten easier now that you have computers? Is it easier now to operate shortwave, or do you heavily rely on the old golden computers from the past?
Okay, let's split it up. First of all, the transmitters are essentially the same. In the technology realm, the streaming is where it has changed from initially from reel to reel or tape to cassette.
Physical cassettes.
Cassettes. Oh yes, every hour or every 45 minutes. Then a 15. No, they actually at the time they were coming from California, and they were already recorded, and all we did is simply load them for whatever the particular program was for the particular target area for that particular transmitter. Right. Okay, so, but the streaming, the question actually, is it easier? Yes, it's easier, but the jeopardy is higher because streaming is something that requires a lot of links. You have your telephone companies, like from some of our streaming actually comes in under ocean via the underground cables, the fiber optics, and just regular whatever that's been there for a long time. So yeah, you can put a lot of programs on basically as long as you've got your programs into your computers and the streaming comes in, everything's okay. It's when it doesn't, you don't have the same control. You're almost initially shut down program-wise. So it's a two-edged sword.
Now, I've heard that some stations, very iconic ones in the shortwave world, have gone down. People have stopped transmitting. I hope I'm not exaggerating. This is the most powerful station in the Western Hemisphere, is it not?
In the U.S., yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But now that some have gone down, I want to just, not technical, this one's like more like a prediction. What is the actual future of shortwave?
Actually, we don't know. I'll put it that way. But we've had a lot of contracts. Maybe because everybody else is shut down, but I don't know that. Right. I'm making some assumptions here. But because of the flexibility of this location, because of its 360 degrees basically of transmitting capability, right, we could contract with just about anybody for whatever their needs are.
Say the Philippines.
Anything, East Canada, West Canada, wow, Europe.
Right. And let's talk now about the human experience. I mean, with so many years in service, I mean, I imagine you guys have received tons and tons of postcards. Like, is that still a practice? Does it still happen?
I used to go home and tell my wife you could take a trip around the world and never leave your chair because we would get big boxes of postcards, postcards, that you would never have the opportunity to go to a location or a country where these postcards came from. And the comments were, you could just sit there and laugh.
Really? Why?
It was because some of the things they would say and some of the pictures. We've had like envelopes. The entire envelope would be written on with pictures. They would put their little pencils, put it on there and give their signal reports. It was really cute. You couldn't ask for more entertainment, literally.
So, and basically the reason behind this custom is just trying to alert you if they're hearing it right?
It is very important that we get feedback because then we know who is listening, where they're listening, and the signal level that they're listening on. That's a very important feature.
Crucial,
yeah.
And if you're receiving these reports from the real audience, do you ever get notices that they suspect the signal's being jammed, and let's say for political reasons? Have you ever gotten those kind of reports?
That goes on without saying. Jamming in this business is part of the game. There are certain locations that they do, but let me say this: sometimes people accuse other countries of jamming us, but for any one frequency, there are 2 to 3 other people possibly using that frequency at that time of day, and what they think is jamming is simply another country, an overlapping from another country.
And is there a way that you can tell the difference if the program on shortwave is being jammed, or if it's just coinciding with another one? There's no way to through the sound tell the difference?
Actually, that's an interesting question. That's a good question because what we found now is there's I think it's called an RDS. It's in different parts of the world now, something very helpful for us is that these individuals have a receiver that is tied to the internet, and we can actually go to our computer, dial it up, and we can hear what our signals sound like, and if it's ours or if it's somebody else interfering. And so you can literally take a trip around the world to different computer sites on these little radios that they have put in for us, and that has been very, very helpful.
I would assume. Yeah, it would give you loads of information. And one of the things that I haven't been able to confirm, whether it's just a rumor or fact, is it true that it is hard, or let's say impossible, or illegal even, to find automobiles in the U.S. that have their radio, their car radios with the shortwave ability? Does that exist? I mean, I've heard that they only have it in Europe or in somewhere else that you can't find in the U.S.
You're right. In the United States, technology is kind of like in Japan. It has taken over the shortwave band. But I do remember seeing many times some of the military men that came back from Europe, they'd have these little cards called MGs. And at first, when I was a younger little guy, I didn't know what that dial was. It had some strange little numbers across there, and I'm like, what is this? But that's more, in other countries, you got to understand that some countries are technologically advanced and others aren't. And we actually have some little radios that are what are called fixed frequency radios that when you turn them on, you don't have a dial, and they have a shortwave frequency on it. In fact, we have one that's 9955, which is one to basically South America. And we've had one of the other men took a trip down to Haiti, I think it was, and he said, I turned this radio on, and it sounded like it was next door. Wow. And he was kind of, and in fact, the cute part, and bless her heart, there was a little lady that was partially blind, and so she was limited as to what she could do. But he gave her one of those, and it's solar powered. So you can just turn it on and listen to the program, and it's like you get a lot of diversity. That's one thing that you don't get these days as far as, your Spanish programs. It could be political or just religious. But you get a potpourri of programs.
Exactly, like a big salad.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Donny, the sun's kind of going away now. The sun got darker. Thank you so much for all that helpful information. I think mainly you, managed to give the information in a very user-friendly kind of way. Like, people will be able to understand more the world of shortwave. So thank you so much, Donny.
Thank you. It's fun.
Okeechobee on my mind, thinking about Okeechobee.
This is WRMI Radio Miami International, Okeechobee, Florida, USA. Contact us at info@wrmi.net. Visit us on the web at www.wrmi.net.
Yeah, I'm going